Alright, so I'm here to give my second video. I thought about a bunch of different things that I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to talk about the day I left. The day I left, it's kind of like a really long story about how I left. I mentally checked out in my relationship in November, and between November and June, November of 2018 and June of 2019, I had done a series of events. I did some things. I made some things happen. Met some people, etc., etc. So, when I left in June, I was terrified. I had a place to go. I was completely 100% supported by everybody. And yet, because I would go home and I would be at home in that environment, I would immediately become terrified. Side note, it's really amazing how I could be two different people. I could be myself outside of work, but then when I'd go home, completely different story. So between November and June, I'd become more vocal about my experiences and what was going on at home. I'd gotten support from a lot of people. I can't begin to describe the amount of support. We have customers at my job that work in the rental industry and own properties, and they were offering to help. Friends were offering room for my son and I. And I couldn't do it. So, June 12th, and at this point I'd already met V. He'd opened up his home to me, and I was making plans to move. It was just pulling the trigger and doing it. But that was the hard part. I was always, waiting for the right moment. I mean, I had, at the time, ample money to leave. I was the one that worked. I paid all the bills. I paid for everything. The rent, the electricity, the car insurance, the food. Odds and ends and little toiletries for the house. And he did not work. He stayed at home with my son, who is homeschooled and cyber-schooled, public schooled online. So, my son spent unbelievable amounts of time in isolation with this man. So my son also has some emotional instabilities with some things. So, okay, June 12th. He started talking to me about money and the plan to move. He wanted to move out of the state. It was too busy here, it's too public, it's too crowded. He wanted to move out of state into a complete remote, isolated area. And he was really pushing for it. I mean, I was terrified on so many levels to do this. So, I'd already been planning to leave. I'd met V. So, when he started almost arguing with me, I I was already cold and I was already distant because I was already planning to leave. So when he wanted to talk about money, I didn't want to talk about the money that I had because I didn't want him to know that I had money. I didn't want him to have my money. I wasn't able to work for the first 5 years that we were together, so by God, now that I am working... What are you doing? We have a kitten. So, when he started arguing with me that night, and he got kind of angry... You can get up there. I don't want to play. So, he was getting angry because I wasn't talking, and he was starting to really get into his stuff, and my son came out of his bedroom, just as sweet as could be, wanting to talk to me about something. And as soon as he saw what was going on, not only did, like, this depressive look come over his face, but, I could see the oh no, not again. The exhaustion. Not the fear, not the terror, just the sheer, utter emotional exhaustion that he was experiencing in that moment of witnessing me being yelled at again. So I told him, you know what, kiddo, don't worry. Just go ahead and go into your room. I'm gonna fix this problem. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, don't worry, baby, just go back in your room. I'll be in there in a few minutes. You don't have to worry about what's going on out here. So he goes back in his room, and my ex says, well, what is that supposed to mean? And I said that this conversation is over. It's just over. It's not going to be had tonight. It's just not. So he got mad, yelled at me some more. I stood my ground. He got his coat on, and I was like, hey, where are you going? He's like, I'm gonna go to the store. Okay. So he leaves, and I'm sitting on the couch, perfect view of the window, okay? And I'm watching him leave and walk to his car, and I'm watching his car back out and drive away, because I'm thinking that if I can see him in his car in his silhouette, then he can see me in me sitting down on the couch in my silhouette, and I just needed to be as inconspicuous as possible. So as soon as his car turns around the fence and is out of eyeshot, I go to my son and I ask, how would you feel if just you and me tomorrow, just you and me, we leave and we never look back? Goodbye to him. And he looks at me, and like 2 feet away from me, he's standing. He says, I don't know how I would feel about that. But then he like slides in really close and he's like, yes. And I told him, I was like, okay, this is the plan. We have 2 minutes to get what we need and put it in the trunk of my car. So get some clothes, get your favorite stuffed animals, your favorite toys, some Legos, something. And we're gonna go stay with some friends. But we leave tomorrow. So, okay, we do. We get it in the trunk, and then I told him, I said, the most important thing, I need you to pretend like everything's okay. And we get the stuff in the trunk, we have our pep talk, he comes home, my son comes out of his room, and is like, okay, I'm going to go to bed now, good night. And so what the pep talk was I'm going to go to work. We're going to pretend like everything is normal. I am going to definitely on the books secure everything that we need to do so that we can leave tomorrow. And in the meantime, your job is to pretend like everything's normal, clean your room, gather your library books, because I'm going to come home from work and we are going to go to the library. So, X comes home, The son is super like, good night, I love you, goes to bed. I come home from work the next day, and as soon as I get in the door, my son is like, are you ready to go to the library, Mom? He's fucking ready to leave this piece of shit, okay? And I'm like, yeah, give me a little bit of time, because I'm terrified. He has 3 guns in the closet and a box of ammo, and I'm terrified to leave. Because I know that if I'm caught or if I'm found, and I need to say he's never, like, laid a hand on me, but he has said enough times that the only reason why he's not in jail is because he had my son and I in his life, and that if he didn't have us, it wouldn't be worth anything. So I'm figuring, like, okay, well, that says to me, like, if we're leaving, then he'll probably kill us. And you know what? If you ever end up watching these videos, yeah, I did think you were gonna kill us. So, I'm terrified. Absolutely terrified. I can't find the strength to leave. I have my own car, I have money, I have support, and I can't fucking do it. I can't bring myself to do it. So what I did was I putzed around the house. Oh, and as soon as my son asked if I was ready to go to the library, my ex immediately said, oh, you really can't wait to get away from me. Gotta go to the library as soon as you get home. I'm plugging my phone in right now. So, yeah. He immediately, oh. So, I told him, I was like, no, we just have some books to take back. They're late. I'll be leaving in a few minutes. I'm on camera. Good morning. Kiddo just woke up. So I putzed around the house a little bit, and I threw some clothes in the washing machine, and I waited until they were in the dryer. Once they were in the dryer, I was like, okay, you know what, my clothes are in the dryer, I'll take care of them when we get home. Let's go to the library. And we went to the library. I didn't just not go to the library. We went to the library. I kept in contact with V, like, hey, we left. I've got my stuff in the trunk. We're at the library. Like, I was scared. I mean, the shit that I used to do in my life before I met this man, there's no reason for me to be scared to leave. Okay? I mean, I've flat out chased down robbers who had just stolen money out of my register. I mean, I grew up in Flint, Michigan. This is why in the first video I talked about embarrassing, because, like, I was terrified. Because even though he knew something was up, and he knew he couldn't do anything about it, and I knew I was gonna be able to leave. I was going to be able to leave. There was no guess in my mind that I was going to be able to leave, and yet I couldn't do it until I got my clothes in the dryer. Once I got my clothes in the dryer, I felt secure enough in my normal routine of, I don't expect you to take care of my laundry. My clothes are in the dryer now. I'll get them out of the dryer when I get back from the laundry. Just maybe check them and make sure they're dry. So while we were at the library and I was in contact with V, and he was giving me all the positive encouragement, like, just come over. This is your home now. Come home. You know, like, just come home, babe. So I got my son some time on the computers. I got I don't even think we checked out any books. I think I just put some books in there and let him play on the computers, let him read something, and talked to V, and was just trying to work up the courage to leave the library and go. Because I didn't have the strength to leave. But I did it! And I was so fucking scared to even just text him and tell him. So I couldn't even leave the library and come to my new home and tell him, like, hey, I'm not coming home tonight. I had to text him while I was at the library because that was my normal routine. So I texted him and I told him that I wasn't coming home and that I was going to take Zim over to spend some time with his cousin, Connor, and I was going to visit my niece. I'm not quite sure if that's how it works, but whatever. And I didn't go there. I came to my new home. So, I had texted him that night and said I'm not coming home. And I texted him the next morning, and I didn't have the courage to tell him straight up that it was over and that it was done. It was a really shitty cat and mouse game because I couldn't speak, couldn't even text. That is the control that he had over me, was that I couldn't. I think 10 miles away from where we lived, completely safe. He's not going to be able to find me unless he put a GPS tracker on my car. And if he did, he would have known what I was up to before I left. And I would have never even gotten to the point where I could leave. So, finally, I don't even remember the texts. Honestly, I can't even pull them out of the cobwebs of my brain. I don't remember. I just remember that, just checked my time. I just remember that I was scared and I couldn't be as vocal about it as right now I could text him and just be like, hey, we're not together anymore. I don't want to come home. I just remember telling him I'm not coming back. I never actually said we're over. I just said I'm not coming back. So I gave him my email address and told him to stay in contact because I felt like I owed him some things, which he never got. He never got what I thought I owed him, and I'm never going to give that to him because over the series of these videos, my friends on Facebook don't even know half of the stories from the personal shit that I used to post about when we would fight. I eventually just quit posting about it because I got sick of people and their opinions. So that's, the isolation. So I contacted my work and let them know I finally left him, but I don't have any work clothes. All I had was a secret pair of jeans that were skinny jeans, so I wouldn't have been able to leave the house in them had he known I had them. I bought them in secret. I kept them in my car. I got changed. On my way to work, I would leave my house in one pair of pants and I would show up to work in another. Over the next series of videos, I'll explain, how I left and the series of events and things like that. Some things I won't go into too much detail about, because they're mine to take to the grave. Other things, I will speak freely and indefinitely about. But I left in secret with a couple of pairs of shirts that I squirreled away into my trunk, and courage that I had to borrow from other people because I didn't have any of my own. So yeah, we're at 20 minutes. Kudos to you guys if you have stayed this far with the story. It was really hard. It was really fucking hard. But it was the best move I've made. Okay. I have to de-cry my eyes, which means I just need to take another dab. And then I can get away with saying, oh no, I'm just really high. I wasn't crying this morning. Alright, well you guys have a good one. Thank you for watching. In the immortal words of YouTubers, like, subscribe, share. Maybe not in that order. Subscribe, share, like, whatever. I don't care. Just do the stuff. Help me get my story out. Bye.